This week on Front End Fire, Cloud unveils its answer to OpenClaw, Cloudflare vibe codes a Next.js replacement, and we get into the saga between Anthropic and the US government. It's Front End Fire, let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome to Front End Fire, the weekly show that helps you stay up to date on the latest and the greatest in the front end world. I am your host today, TJ Van Tol. I have Paige Niedringhaus with me.
Hey everybody.
And Jack Harrington.
Hey everybody.
And it is the Anthropic episode here today. I feel like it's, kind of every episode is nowadays, but we've got them going to war almost quite literally. We've got people using Claude Code to control vacuum armies. That's coming up later. So we have some fun stuff. So why don't we get into it?
Yes.
All right, Paige, do you want to kick us off? I hear that we're controlling Claude Code remotely now.
Yes. So everybody who has listened to this podcast or been in the tech world for the past 2 months really is aware of OpenClaw, which is the open sourced version of a personal assistant. I know TJ has one and Jack has one, and I think this weekend I'm going to set one up on an old MacBook. So we're all in it.
Yep.
But it happened very quickly. It was a rise from January. Peter Steinberger, the creator, got hired by OpenAI in record time. OpenClaw moved under the Linux Foundation in record time as well. And we all kind of wondered why Anthropic and Claude didn't necessarily jump on OpenClaw, besides all of the privacy and security issues that are rife within it. But even then, they could have taken it and made it something that was probably more secure, more user-friendly, and it was named after Claude. It uses Claude, at least originally it did. So this week, we saw why Anthropic may not have jumped on it, and they unveiled their answer to it, which is called Claude Remote Control. And it is exactly what it sounds like. You walk away from Claude on your desktop, you open up your Claude mobile app on your phone or your tablet or whatever, and you're back to work with Claude anywhere. And it's not using a Claude instance in the browser. It is actually connecting back to your local system. So the file system is there, the MCP servers you added are there. Basically, everything that you were working on at your computer is now available in your pocket to you on the go anywhere in the world. Get ready.
What could go wrong?
Well, it's still not quite
possibly go wrong.
It's not quite OpenClaw, where OpenClaw can kind of access, because you're still Claude Code especially is very proud of their system where they keep the agent kind of isolated to the area that you have it run in. It's
Unless you do
what
everyone does, which is dangerously allow unlimited permissions.
YOLO.
Yeah.
Right.
YOLO mode. Yeah.
But
sure.
Yes, it's not proactive in the way that OpenClaw is, where it will just start doing things whether you've asked it to or
true.
not.
Yeah, there's no cron jobs, things like that,
Yeah.
which is limiting, right? I mean, so it's not really an OpenClaw companion.
You don't have the connectors either, but it is like it does share the way that you remotely communicate with the agent, which is one of the characterizing features of OpenClaw for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny. Oh, sorry. It's funny because I feel like a running joke on this show maybe 4 or 5 months ago was that Jack would be out on the go, telling agents what to do all the time. And we kind of made fun of that tongue in cheek a little bit. Now this is like just totally reality where this is just what these AI companies think that our lives are going to be. We're going to kick off a job, and then we're going to have to run to the grocery store. But while we're in line, we could check in on our agent and give it some tips and see where it's at.
Yeah, that actually doesn't sound too bad to me, to be honest. Like that, I have definitely gone to the store and come back only to find that it was like, waiting on one permission or something like that. It
asked to read a file or do a grep.
Yeah, can I read package JSON? Yes, you can read package JSON. Man. Really, go do it.
Yeah,
permissions
so you can. Well, I was just going to say, So you can use your full local environment because it is actually connecting to your Claude Code session. The conversation will stay in sync across all of your devices. So no matter where you're talking to Claude, it is aware of what you've talked about in the past. And the sessions will reconnect automatically. So if your machine goes to sleep for whatever reason and you lose the connection, the next time you wake it back up, everything will just start back up as if nothing had ever happened.
See, Jack's example of the permissions is personally the only time I think I would want to use this, because to me, if I have Claude working on something, when it's done with it, I'm going to want to look over what it did or run it or check it or whatnot, which is not going to be easy to do on a phone on the go. I mean, maybe you could have it being updating something that you could check remotely. There's all sorts of craziness you might do, but to me, this is just like, maybe I guess I'll keep tabs from but I don't know. I don't really see myself using this personally.
Yeah, it kind of feels to me like when we had the GitHub mobile app and you could suddenly review PRs on your phone. It's like, this is cool for somebody, but I'm also never going to do this because it feels so uncomfortable to try and imagine what a PR would look like in GitHub mobile, as opposed to on my desktop, leaving comments, making commits, doing changes like that. So I think I'm kind of in the same boat with you, TJ, of like, it's a good idea. And maybe if I had a Claude that was doing a bunch of research for something, but not actually making code changes, maybe that would be a decent use of this.
Yeah, I can imagine using it once and again, now and again, particularly when it's doing like a plan mode or something like that, and I can kind of quickly review, whatever the plan was to make sure it's not utter insanity, and then kind of let it roll, on that. Yeah.
If you have like a longer running thing and you have it, because you could almost, if you know you're going to use this, you would almost change your workload a little bit. You might have it say, check back in with me occasionally if you have any questions or something like that. And
yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's cool. Good capability.
Yeah, so
good, nice to see
it currently requires a max plan, and they have pro plan support coming soon. No API key support. I'm not even sure what that would actually look like if you're trying to use an API key instead. But yeah, so if you're a max user, try it out. Let us know what you think. And if you're a pro plan user, we'll let you know when it's available for you too.
Okay, I'll guinea pig that. I will do that this weekend on something. I don't know. We'll see.
All right. Well, in more Anthropic news, Jack, I hear there's some drama with war.
So, Anthropic is going to war with Pete Hegseth's Department of War. So, Pete Hegseth has decided that Anthropic's essentially terms and conditions or limitations around what its AI can do is not compatible with what they want to do with it. And in particular, two things. They wanted to allow them to help with spying and it was unspecified as to who that spying might be on. And then also to use it as part of weaponry or a choice to kill someone. So they want both of those limitations removed. And Anthropic's saying, yeah, no, we do not want to do that. And the threats coming down from the DOW, I guess, is to remove it from all DOW use, which I think would be the least invasive of these. And then there's another one kind of weirdly, I don't know, like exclusionary of each other. They could call it a supply chain threat, which has never been applied to any U.S. company, or they could nationalize it under the Defense Production Act, which is something we really haven't done in any kind of serious way since we did that for like tanks and boats and planes in World War II. And just on a side note, I mean, that would kick a pillar of the U.S. economy out right now and crash the U.S. economy. But regardless of all that, so I think, when I think about this, I don't think like a language I think folks are not thinking about these tools correctly, first and foremost. Like a language learning model, which is a statistical engine that basically decides what it wants to tell you, what you want to hear. It shouldn't be in charge of whether you're going to kill someone. Like if you want to, if somebody's saying, we should kill Jack, right? To get back, you're absolutely right, is not what I want to hear, right? And whether you're on, you actually believe what this current administration does or is or in their ideology. Like, are you okay with the next administration that may not have that ideology having those kind of tools? So there's a lot of interesting ethical questions here, and it is way far beyond time that we actually have some kind of regulations around AI and its use, because if it's down to one CEO telling the government to go fly, like we don't have protections, because the next CEO could tell them, yeah, no problem.
That's kind of what I was going to ask is, are any of the other AI companies stepping up and raising their hands and saying, we'll change our policies or our LLM directives if you give us the contract, like OpenAI or anybody else?
Not that I know of, but I can imagine. The weird thing is, like, you're a multi-trillion-dollar whatever, certainly hundreds of billions of dollars of budget. You can't make your own model that does this for you. Like, that's not. I don't want that, but like, it's weird to me that they would like go after a commercial agency. I mean, I know I like Anthropic and I like its models. I'm not sure I would use them for this. It's weird.
Yeah, so Sam Altman, so OpenAI CEO, did tweet in support of Anthropic.
Excellent.
So,
okay, good.
Which is good to see. I do think that this is one of those things that it's just a matter of time that if Anthropic doesn't allow this sort of use case, somebody will, or some government will develop this somewhat covertly as well. But there's a big difference between a giant government-funded effort and this sort of capability just being allowed to be available to anyone. There's when access is made easier, badder things can happen, to put things a little bit simply. And for Anthropic, this is also core to their identity as well. So I think for them, this is more than just a moral decision. It's also very much a business decision, because they very proudly see themselves as the ethical AI company. It's kind of interesting. I was listening to an interview with the creator of Claude Code. By the way, Claude Code is 1 year old. Its birthday was February 24th.
That's nuts.
The author was doing the author was doing a podcast tour, and that's one of the things I listened to it on the Vergecast. It was a really good interview. But one of the things that he stated and he was quite proud of is that Anthropic is an ethical AI company, or is that is a core part of their vision. That's what they use to recruit people like him and others and such as well. So when this sort of things comes up, it's not only a moral stance for them, which, very good on them and such, but it's also in their best interest for recruiting and for brand image and whatnot to die on this hill also.
It's funny that you say that, though, because Anthropic is ethical when it benefits them. Because as we have said before, and others have rightly pointed out, everything that they have trained their models on has not been ethically sourced, I guess is the best way to put it. The videos, the books, the images.
Yeah. There's a lot of...
We covered on this podcast before. We try to find the episode number, but how they blatantly just stole pirated books, and then when they got in trouble for doing that, they started just buying used books and just scanning them in that way, which was deemed fair use. So and that's kind of the cynical take on this as well, that they're just doing it because it's in their best interest. This reminds me of when this is like Apple with security. Apple will always die on the security hill, but it's also kind of in their best interest to die on that hill because that helps their brand image as well. And it's sort of impossible to say from the outside if these people are motivated by good intentions or business interests or whatnot. But that does make it all the more kind of fascinating in terms of just a news item. And these stakes here are quite high. I mean, Anthropic signed a pretty massive deal. That's the reason all this came up, is because the U.S. government signed a big deal with Anthropic last year. They made a big deal. They made a big blog post. A bunch of money changed hands. And that contract is kind of why this came to a head here in the last week or so.
Yeah. it's just always interesting to watch the evolution over time. And this one has been very rapid, where Anthropic went from a scrappy startup that everybody was kind of rooting for and didn't have any real offerings to now it is fighting the fight that it shouldn't, that, Google and other AI competitors shouldn't be able to use its models. And the government wants it to change its terms and conditions and it refuses to do so. So it's just a very interesting evolution of we're the underdog to we're the biggest game in town. And now we have principles and morals that we stand behind. Whereas before we probably we did what we could to get ourselves into the profitable space. And now things are changing. How we view everything changes, I guess.
Yeah.
It's funny because Anthropic, like you said, I just looked up the numbers because they earlier this year raised $30 billion at a $380 billion valuation. And that's why this story is now suddenly leading on CNBC, right? Because this has went from a niche player to one of the handful of largest companies in the US, right? Like outside of the other big tech companies, Anthropic is right there on this list. And I do like that, on this show, this is a front end podcast. We talk about front end topics, but we do like bringing a broader perspective on some of the tools we use all the time because for better or worse, Anthropic has become one of the more important companies in our day-to-day lives. And unclear at the moment whether that is a good or a bad thing, but that means just when they're in the general news, I think it's very interesting to talk about what they're doing.
Sure.
I just keep going back to we need policymakers who actually understand the technology that they're using to drive policy. To drive it. And I've been doing this code mode work with Handstack AI just recently, and one thing in particular that strikes me is that it gets the math wrong, man. Like LLMs routinely get basic math problems wrong. Like I asked it for an average, and it just got it wrong, which is why things like code mode are so interesting. But it's not intelligence. It's not. It's a statistical engine, and if you're an uninformed person, it looks like intelligence. It passes the Turing test, but it's not that. And when you try to use it like that, you're going to run into problems. And now you're putting the life and death equation in a language learning model's hands. It's totally inappropriate. Totally inappropriate.
All right, well, we need a palate cleanse, and luckily, Cloudflare has stepped up with one of the more amazing headlines I've read in a long time. Here's a post from the official Cloudflare blog, how we rebuilt Next.js with AI in 1 week, which is just so good. So I'll just read the lead of this article. Last week, one engineer and an AI model rebuilt the most popular front-end framework from scratch. The result, vNext, is a drop-in replacement for Next.js built on Vite that deploys to Cloudflare workers with a single command. In early benchmarks, it builds production apps up to 4 times faster and produces client bundles up to 57% smaller. And we already have customers running it in production. The whole thing cost $1,100 in tokens to build. Man, what an article!
Amazing.
To go through
$1,100.
$1,100
and one engineer.
One engineer literally is pointing it at the next code base and saying, "Just take this and put it on Vite," which
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So some full context here.
Yes.
Next.js has been the subject of a lot of recent episodes of this show because we got a lot of recent survey data back, and there are a lot of people using Next.js. It's still one of the, if not the most popular ways to build these types of applications. But at the same time, people are not enjoying Next.js for a variety of reasons. And one of the biggest is the deployment story for Next. Next, a lot of its Next.js apps work best when they're deployed on Vercel for a variety of reasons. And there's some ecosystem that is built up. Vercel has made some commitments to make the deployment situation better for other platforms. There's also this whole Open Next movement that has built up where people have tried to make it easier to make it. I even have a quote in here. They say from Cloudflare, this is the problem. This is indeed the problem Open Next was built to solve. And a lot of engineering effort has went into Open Next from multiple providers, including us at Cloudflare. It works, but it quickly runs into limitations and becomes a game of whack-a-mole because as Vercel changes things in Next.js, that has the potential to break things in these adapters in Open Next, and it's just this constant game that you play over and over again. And so at Cloudflare, apparently they thought, well, you know what? What if Next.js is available, its test suite is totally publicly available. So what if we pointed Claude at its test suite and at its API surface, which is very well documented. In fact, they talk in here about how the reason this was even possible is because Next is so widely implemented, so widely documented, has such a robust test suite that let's just throw Claude at it, throw $1,100 at tokens at it, and just have it build a replacement on top of Vite. Vite, a tool that people genuinely like, unlike a lot of the tooling from the Next ecosystem. And apparently they got really good results in this. They do say that vNext is experimental. Obviously, it's not even a week old and is yet to be battle tested.
I wonder what the sites are. Oh my God.
It's a good question.
So I tried it because
excellent.
I wanted to get some experience with this.
Yeah.
And the first thing I thought that was kind of funny and a sign of the times is that they don't really have, because they talk about how it's a drop-in replacement, and they don't really have instructions for how to do it. What they tell you to do instead is to use an agent skill. So this new skills platform that Vercel has, it says to just install that and to tell your agent to do the migration, which I thought was wild. And what a sign of 2026 that's your migration path. It's it's just
cool.
Assume,
it's really cool. Yeah.
Don't do it yourself.
Assume you're not going to do this yourself. You're just going to tell your agent how to do it instead, of course. And so I ran it on a fairly complex work site that is built with Next just to see what would happen. And Claude worked at it for about 20 minutes or so, going through all sorts of stuff. And eventually it just did not work for me, which was not a huge surprise because it is a fairly complex app, but that's kind of why I wanted to try it, to sort of test its claim that it is a drop-in replacement, because a lot of where it got caught up is that the interesting things that we're doing with bundling in that app, because we do some unique things where we bundle like YAML files and MDX files. And that's really, exactly, when you step out of those happy paths, they don't work. And then also the agent got very confused because some of those were things that should be pretty straightforward to work around. But because it's a vibe coded project over a week, the agent didn't really know what to do, right? It didn't have docs to look at or approaches to look at. And it just kind of spun churning through my tokens for, a good 20-25 minutes, but
not $1,100, hopefully.
No, not $1,100. Whatever it had, I didn't look at I don't have my receipt printer hooked up quite yet. So I didn't see exactly how much, but I let it have a good 20-minute go at it, at which point I was like, I got an idea of what's up here. It's definitely, though, fascinating that they would even attempt something like this, because this isn't just like some random startup posting about a vibe-coded weekend project. This is Cloudflare, and it's Cloudflare talking about it very publicly on their blog, and it sounds like a project that's something that they're potentially going to invest in, and so it's just a fascinating story on several different levels.
It definitely got Guillermo's attention. He came back really quickly and was like, they've got security vulnerabilities in their stuff, which is kind of pot calling kettle black at this point. I don't know. I was under the assumption that it was only for the app router, but maybe it's Page's router as well.
They have both. There's both in there now too. Maybe they just kept the vibe coding session going, and Claude, it was next on Claude's list.
Okay, well, that's a little different. That's impressive, because there are so many sites that are on Pages Router and not all that many sites that are on App Router. So this is interesting. This actually creates a weird competitive landscape.
Yeah, I don't even know what to make of this, to be honest with you. I mean, I'd say for listeners of this, I would not jump on the VNext bandwagon by any means. Like we're still not at a point where you want to totally trust this sort of vibe coded sort of software. But maybe in a month or so, if Cloudflare chooses to invest in this and they get some push behind the open source ecosystem, I don't think it's implausible that this could turn into a totally real thing. I really think it's quite possible.
Boy, that would be something amazing to think about, how long it's taken Next.js to get to where it is, and that somebody can come along and drop in a totally different bundling and compiling system in a week with an agent.
Oh, and a completely redone system. But again, that's because it's so well documented. Like that's
right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll give it to Cloudflare in the sense of their marketing and their idea engine lately has been top notch. We've covered some of the other. Last week we talked about a rendering engine for Markdown. If you pass accepts Markdown header, you get back a Markdown version for LLMs.
Genius.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's services for blocking AI crawlers, which again, even just their fingers on the pulse of things that people are thinking of in this new world, and they're clearly just adapting really, really fast. They're coming out with these ideas really, really quickly. So they have some smart people there coming up with some smart ideas.
Yeah, they've made a lot more news, I guess, than I remember ever seeing from them in the past. So good on them for continuing to hit those high points as the topic and the discourse heads towards them.
All right. Well, I think that is our news for this week, but I know we have some fun lightning stuff to talk about, so let's do that.
Yeah.
Paige, do you want to kick off our lightning news this week?
Yes. So for lightning news, Oxfmt has reached beta. So the Void Zero team just keeps churning out great new build tools and everything that you want to use instead of your older build tools. They're all Rust powered because we love Rust.
Of course they are. Yeah.
But Oxfmt is the Rust version of Prettier, or a Prettier compatible code formatter. It is 30 times faster than Prettier. It is 3 times faster than Biome. We don't know how benchmarks work, but they tell us that these things are that much faster. But yeah, the team, I think, announced alpha back in December, and since then they have increased the file format support. So now they have embedded language formatting, import sorting, integrated Tailwind CSS support, and some other improvements. But yeah, they're in beta now, and some notable tools or libraries that are already using them. OpenClaw, of course.
Yeah.
Vue, of course, obviously, because that's Evan Yu's own framework. Turbo Repo from Vercel. That was kind of a surprise. And Hugging Face and NPMX, which I had not heard of until this week, but apparently it is a browser, or it's a browsing support for NPM, for finding packages within NPM. So
very cool.
I haven't really tried it out yet, but yeah, it was there's some really big names already using it. It's in beta now, so it should be pretty stable. So if you're interested in speeding up your Prettier and your formatting, and you want to use all the tools that Void Zero is putting out, give it a try.
I half expected you to say VNext as one of the tools that are already using it. It's just...
That would have been great.
Might as well, while you're there.
Yeah,
sure.
Why not?
Yeah,
just keep the Claude
just
session going. Just
keep throwing
switch
stuff
over.
at it. Who cares? Yeah.
All right. I've got a quick one and then a fun one. So the quick one is that Styled Components had another release out of nowhere that added RSC support. And
Ooh.
I say out of nowhere because they announced last year that their library was going into maintenance mode, and we covered it on this show. Well, apparently, it's at least had enough maintenance to add RSC support. So they just say that Style Components now automatically detects RSC environments and handles CSS delivery appropriately.
That's
whatever
cool. That's great.
That means.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Yeah. So good on them, because it's still a very widely used project. So it's cool to see a release happening.
Yeah,
these projects don't
that's
die.
awesome.
Yeah.
I mean,
Not
if I remember correctly, wasn't it just incompatible with the whole way that RSCs worked, styled components, or am I thinking of maybe a different library?
That's why I'm confused about this. And I have not had the time to dive into exactly what this means or how it works. But I do not know the answer to your question, and I'm also confused.
But that's great. If they figured out some way to make it work, that's awesome for all the people using it, because I know it is super popular still.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then our fun story of the week is from Claude Code and the maker of DJI vacuums. So this story was covered on a few different tech blogs, but an engineer by the name of Sami Astufal had a very simple desire. He wanted to steer his robot vacuum with a PS5 controller.
Oh.
Honestly, who wouldn't want to do that?
Exactly.
Who among us, right?
Exactly.
So what he did is he took DJI is the maker of this vacuum cleaner, and they have a mobile app. And so what Sammy did is he asked Claude Code to decompile the mobile app to understand the protocol for interacting with the vacuum, to extract his authentication token, and then build him a custom client, and then so he could use his PS5 controller as the input in this custom client. So basically build him his own little dashboard for controlling this robot. But what him and Claude discovered, is that by connecting to DJI servers, that the way that authentication was set up through this MQTT server was that once you gain control of one robot, you essentially just an auth token just gained you access to the entire fleet of robots. And so he quickly realized that he had not only control of his vacuum, but he had the opportunity to control 7,000 other vacuums spread out across 24 countries. He could watch their live camera feeds. He could listen through.
Oh my God.
They have cameras.
Insane.
They have mics.
Oh,
they have mapping, so he could generate
God.
floor plans of other homes. All just because Claude reverse engineered this protocol. Turns out this protocol was, it was protected by authentication, but it was just like one person. You just get in and you just have the keys to the kingdom.
And you're in.
Oh my God.
Because Claude was coming up with figuring out endpoints to figure out all the devices, and then he could just use his auth token to do anything at that point. And so I was looking around the internet for all these stories that talk about this. I haven't seen, I would presume and hope that this was patched out, because it was really the biggest problem was that it was an issue with their MQTT server. So presumably they could solve this on the back end alone without having to update the firmware on all these vacuums. But regardless, I just thought it was just hilarious that, it's not cool, I guess, in a sense, but I choose to laugh rather than cry at a story like this, because I don't know. I think it's kind of fun.
And this is the same DJI that does drones, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. I just lent one of the co-hosts of JS Jabber a drone that I had that I wasn't using. It's one of those things where you get something and you're like, oh, that's great, and play with it for an hour, and you're like, okay, well, that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then you put it in the closet. But he's actually like a volunteer fireman, and he runs their drone system, so he wanted to play around with a personal drone. And I'm like, okay, now can anybody control that drone? Because if you imagine that they would share similar infrastructure across all of their different offerings, that's what these companies do. So I would be surprised if it couldn't get access to other types of DJI equipment that was connected to the network.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to things like authentication, you don't want to set those up for different devices or different types of hardware.
Yeah. Okay. Fun. Yeah.
But if you're looking for a fun weekend project, see what you could use Claude Code to hack into. Look around your home. There's probably something out there.
Compiling with Claude has never occurred to me, and now it's like, oh my god, what could we do with this? I'm kind of surprised that it just didn't like wiretap the protocol, like put like a middleman between.
That's kind of what I thought too.
Yeah.
I would just watch just usually put in when I've messed with this sort of stuff before, it's you put something in the middle of the signal, you log it, you figure out, you press all the buttons, you tell Claude I'm pressing the go button, and then Claude sees what the signal is, and then it knows how to standard type stuff. But but apparently different attack vectors, you just decompile the Android app, and then you go to town, have Claude go to town on that.
Guys, the
and IoT devices, they're just rife with attack vectors because connected. I was talking about the connected crock pots from a few years ago, but people figured out once they were on the Wi-Fi that they could get into people's entire home networks through their crock pots because there was no sort security. Of authentication. No security. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay,
all right.
Fun.
Fun stuff.
Great stuff. Okay.
Well, hacking stories are making us happy. Let's see what else is. Jack, what's making you happy this week?
Sync Thing is making me happy this week. SYNC Thing. And it's really cool. I have that now, like a Mac Studio, which is headless. That just runs my OpenClaw and all that kind of stuff, and I've got other machines, and it's a way where I can basically create my own little web of shared files, and it automatically syncs between all of my devices in real time. So it's essentially like if you think like the iOS cloud stuff, but like at an open source level, and you can like actually sync with Linux boxes remotely or whatever, and you can have these files are shared there, these files are shared there. It's just really nice. It's much easier than just having like a shared directory that you kind of like drop stuff into. Now it's like it just automatically just works. It's very nice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What sort of files do you? Because it's funny, I do not use these sorts of things very much anymore, just because most of what I do is either files that I have that are in Git repos, and Git is my kind of sort of sharing mechanism, or things that I'm just straight up storing in the cloud. Like I gave up at some point of having local copies of all my pictures. I just decided those are just in the cloud, and at some point I tried to maintain those on personal hard drives, and then at some point I gave up. So I'm curious, just because I don't know what I would use this for nowadays.
Yeah, to me it's like I've got this. I had on my my NAS. Like this bunch of files that I would, I want to be able to access from multiple points. And if I ever wanted to go and use it, I would go, actually connect to the NAS and then grab the file and all that. And now the NAS runs Sync Thing and I run Sync Thing, and it just works. And it's only like I think 25 gigs of files, but it's things like 3D models and recipes and just random stuff that it kinds of is around. Like eventually I might get to organizing. Like I'm doing enough 3D modeling nowadays where I actually probably have to start organizing that, but
my biggest problem is that I forget where I've organized things, because I have Google Drive, I have Dropbox, I have Microsoft 365, whatever, and I just forget where have I put the files that has all my recipe cards or something in it. And so that's my biggest issue. But I'm kind of like TJ, like everything's in a cloud somewhere at this point, and I really don't feel like I need a lot of stuff between devices that I can't either airdrop or access through some cloud interface.
Yeah, the random other computer is a good use case though, because when I was going through the whole OpenClaw thing, just little things like I needed a thumb drive that had a decent amount of storage, and it took me a while to find one. I knew I had one around here, but I hadn't had to use one in many, many years.
Yeah.
I was tracking one down, and then it's really annoying to have to do that to ship files around. So, yeah.
Isn't it amazing, though, that like thumb drives are still such a plot point in movies. Like that's the only way that you transfer data or you steal information off of people's computers still. It's still thumb drives. Like the last 20 years it's been thumb drives.
Right? Yeah, the most
Yep.
recent Mission Impossible movie was like, you got to stick the thumb drive into the super AI supercomputer at exactly the right millisecond. And I'm like, well, one, that's never going to happen. I could go on for days about how bad technology is in movies. Ugh. And even when they try, it's bad. Like, ugh, it's almost worse.
Well, they use it as such they just like gloss over what's actually required or what's happening. It's just like can't figure out how to do this any other way. Let's just use technology and make up something that doesn't actually work or exist, but we say it does, so we can move the plot along. Yeah, that's what drives me the most nuts. Is like, it doesn't work this way. It's never worked this way. It still doesn't.
Yeah. By the way, if you're in Hollywood, just use Claude, man. Just ask Claude like what what a technologist would do. Is probably pretty right, actually. We just asked it what to do. So there you go.
Paige, what's making you happy this week?
Well, this week I started and have already finished Night of the Seven Kingdoms on HBO.
So good. So good. Oh my God.
Yep. So it was great. It was short. It was 6 or 7 episodes?
6, yeah.
Tops 35, 40 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really, really great start to another series. As Jack said, it went full Game of Thrones by the last episode or 2. So
including the music.
I'm excited.
And it was like,
yes.
It was absolutely perfect. Like they used the Game of Thrones music for a half second in like the first episode, and they punctuated it with whatever. And then like what they actually paid it off like 4 episodes later when this person comes in, you're like, oh my God. And it's like the don, and like, oh man, yeah, here we go. Game of Thrones, let's go.
Yeah. So that was very fun. I'm now excited for whenever the next season comes out, which I'm sure it'll be a while in the making, but yeah, good.
I don't know
another
why.
Good spin-off.
I mean, looking at it, like the production value seems like super not original Game of Thrones. I mean, there's no dragons. There's no like, you could have shot this stuff at a Ren Fair, man.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just horses and knights and kind of typical, fantasy stuff.
Right.
No magic, really. No, none of that.
Yeah, you just redress some of the House of the Dragon sets or whatever you have left over from GOT, and there you go.
I need to see it.
So that's fun.
Oh, it's great.
I hear good things.
It's good. It's very good.
Need to make time. Yeah.
And it's not like Game of Thrones. It's like it's a different vibe entirely.
All right. Well, what's making me happy this week is, well, first of all, my health. I'm back to feeling okay. Apologies for the episode getting out one day late last week, but I was totally laid out by a stomach bug that was not fun. And it's amazing how you get back from something like that and you appreciate everything just a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I'm appreciating, though, this week is TanStack Start, because I spent some time this weekend before I got sick converting a project over. And it went super smoothly. It was it was an old side project. It was not very complicated, right? This isn't like my experience with VNext where I was doing something epic. This is a little thing that I had created with Create React App, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. But it still was. It's out there. It has a couple hundred users. People are using this thing, and I wanted to give it a fresh coat of paint, right? And it had become just a complete pain to maintain because it's amazing how Create React App does not feel fun to use in 2026. And so I had Claude do a good 80% of the work. My strategy when it comes to converting something from one to another is I started by creating a Hello World TanStack Start app. Yeah. And then I had that on one monitor so I could see like how does the simplest project ever work, and then I would look at my other one, and then a combination of me and Claude would go back and forth. But it was really seamless. The couple of things I liked is, and you've talked about this a little bit on the show before, Jack, but the CLI when you start a new TanStack Start app will ask you, kind of like a grab bag of what sort of things do you want, right? And it just works, which that was really, really slick. The TanStack start, the router I really like how it's implemented. It kind of auto generates. I still don't know exactly how it works. It's a little bit magical to me, but it sort of auto generates the actual code for it, but you just put your files in a very specific way. And it felt really smooth to me. This project had like 5 or 6 routes, something like that. And Claude did most of the hard work there. And then most importantly, I guess, is it runs really smooth and fast. It feels faster than it did before. It basically feels the same, but that's kind of what you want, right? You just want it to just work. And I like having side projects out there with a variety of different tech, just because that's kind of my way of keeping up on this sort of world. So I'm broadening my portfolio now, because at work I've got Next and I've got Svelte covered. Through this podcast website, I've got Astro covered. So now I've got TanStack Start in the portfolio. So I got to keep a nice, well-rounded set of things out there to have.
You should choose Vue next.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Like nowadays, I'm kind of doing well because I got the studio as like this kind of anchor machine, and I've got Tailscale. I can basically use the studio as a host for like stuff that I want, like just like personal little apps, and it just, now I can just like on my phone, I can go use, through Tailscale, go to that machine, and, I get access to, all of my little websites and all that sort of
without
stuff.
having
So
to
it's
deploy
pretty
them
cool.
or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to you just have them internally.
Yeah,
And you don't worry about
awesome.
security and stuff because you have to be in the Tailscale, world to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for any Pokemon Go players out there, go checklist.app. That is now powered by TanStack Start. Or if you're one of the like 513 people, I think, or whatever, that are visiting every week or so, you've got a smoother new experience on the TanStack ecosystem. So.
Yeah.
We'll link that in the show notes for sure.
Yeah.
Super exciting. All right. Well, I think that is another episode. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. As always, the show is brought to you by the Blue Collar Coder channel on YouTube. And you can also join our Blue Collar Coder Discord and talk with us there. We've been having some fun chats about AI in there this last week. You can also find all of our socials, our email and such. Those are all in the show notes as well. But yeah, once again, thanks for joining, and we'll see you all next week.
See you next week.